Okay, let's say you have this coworker and you've worked with them for months. They're nice, hardworking too, and always down to help. But then, out of nowhere, they're fired, sacked, without notice. Turns out they lied their way into this job, and many others using resumes, names, and credentials stolen from people like you. The difference is that every paycheck they earned was wired straight to North Korea, funding a dangerous nuclear weapons program or a global cyber espionage campaign. This covert network of North Korean workers generates over $500 million per year. Almost every single Fortune 500 company has hired at least one North Korean by mistake. And in the past 12 months alone, infiltrations on multinational conglomerates, government entities, and even local mom-and-pop shops have surged by 220%. In this video, you'll learn how North Korea, a country shut off from the global internet, managed to pull off one of the most blatant, widespread, and sophisticated cases of fraud, maybe ever. We'll go inside North Korea's employee fraud machine. We'll see how the workers live and work in disguise, the complex steps they take to pull it off, and answer why, even as companies fight back, this scheme is growing faster than anyone can stop. All the information you're about to hear comes from verified cybersecurity research, public indictments, and testimonies from North Korean defectors. Sources are linked below in the description. Before we get into it, let me introduce myself. I'm Caleb, and I want to start by putting myself in the shoes of one of these North Korean workers. If I were part of the scheme, what would my life be like? How would I secure and manage multiple high-pressure jobs simultaneously? How would I blend in to a corporate environment that's the opposite of everything I've ever known? North Korea's worker scheme started in 2014. For the sake of this exercise, let's say I'm now around the age of 25. From an early age, I showed aptitude in maths and STEM. Therefore, I trained in IT. Not because I loved it, but because I was handpicked for this specific mission. Most likely I graduated from one of the country's most elite schools, either Kim Chaek University of Technology, the MIT of North Korea, or the University of Sciences in Pyongyang. Then I'm sent overseas. I travel in a team of 5 overseen by one master boss. My family back in North Korea is closely surveilled, in case I even think of defecting, mafia style. I arrive in my new host country, somewhere with a good, strong internet connection. But there's no time to explore. Not that I would be allowed to anyway. Instead, I jump online. I need to hide my location. I do that through the Astral VPN, the undisputed favorite amongst us North Koreans. Astral VPN, based here in the Seychelles, operates exit IPs in numerous countries. This gives me plenty of outward addresses to choose from. Astral is also a hit in China for bypassing censorship. But for us North Koreans, it helps disguise our VPN traffic and retains no logs of our IP address, DNS queries, or browsing history. Basically nothing that would get us into big trouble should we be caught. Now, don't get me wrong, Astral VPN is not a silver bullet. I can't make my IP totally invisible yet. But since I won't be anywhere near where I say I am, hiding my real geolocation is non-negotiable if I want a shot at a big name company. But here's the problem. The big name companies have the sharpest security teams, some of the best in the world, and many of them are in active training as we speak to detect this operation. But I'll worry about them later. First, I need to actually get the job. I search recruitment sites like Upwork, Talia, Workday, ICMS, and Greenhouse for remote jobs in software or a similar field with access to data and systems, preferably BYOD friendly and located in the West, ideally the United States. I intend to apply to every single job that matches this criteria, with the help of my fellow operatives. First, I need an American sounding name. To help me hit my monthly quotas, I can invent one, but I don't have to. North Korean hackers have already stolen thousands of names, birth dates, social security numbers, and email addresses for this exact purpose, through data breaches and info stealer malware. This gives me a massive head start. Stealers' logs can be like gold for building fake personas, but credential dumps rarely provide the full picture, which introduces a whole new set of problems I must overcome. Next, I forge and age a believable digital footprint that survives, at the very least, a cursory Google search, plus an employment history that matches the stolen data. This identity must pass every corporate background check. So before I proceed, I run the stolen data through an online service like CenturyLink. Then I hop on LinkedIn and scroll through white-collar profiles. I try to get a feel of the go-to industry events and corporate jargon, but mainly I'm searching for a successful American with some resemblance to me. I settle on a profile of a high-ranking senior software engineer. I stalk him on Facebook too. I screenshot all his public photos, and using AI tools like FaceSwap, I move the public photos over to more professional-looking backgrounds. With a real interview on the horizon, my real appearance and the stolen photo make sense. I tweak the stolen photo with an ethnicity-changing tool, and I fold the newly doctored photos into my resume and social media. This practice is fairly new. Before 2023, cartoon avatars stood in for real headshots across portfolios and social media. But now, companies are wise to our tricks. We actually have to show up online. Very soon, this DIY photo tinkering work won't be necessary. Thanks to North Korea's newly launched research Center 227, run by North Korea's intelligence agency, the General Staff Reconnaissance Bureau, to develop offensive hacking technology and expand North Korea's homegrown AI empire. That includes better deepfake recruiters, beauty filters, and face-altering tools. But I spent too long on this task. It's time I move on. And what I'm about to do next is risky, but I'm willing to gamble. Step 3, I clone a bootstrap template and copy significant chunks from the existing portfolios of employed North Koreans earning both money and, more importantly, national pride. I add programming skills like React, Full Stack, and Java. In the end, my online portfolio will look something like this. Speaking of portfolios, GitHub requires a social security number to sign up. If there's no SSN in the credential dump, I use online number generator temporarily while I make a plan to access the real deal later on. I contribute to open source GitHub projects to A, show off my proficiency in blockchain tech, and B, fake a little back and forth development history. If the top firms aren't interested at first, I'll target companies lower on the ladder with less vetting or financial processing roles like payroll or accounting. I'll reserve the stolen identities for lucrative gigs and instead use a Japanese name generator to populate spreadsheets with fake names, cloned resumes, job descriptions, and job statuses. Every time I finish one persona, I start building another. North Koreans created hundreds of fake work personas every year until one sticks, or until it is blacklisted or added to the specially designated nationals and blocked persons list, administered by OFAC. The latter result is unfortunately now the norm. US corporations are now across the scheme and Europe is close behind, making it harder to fake a life that can survive an interview, a traceable reference check, and a deep OSINT search. That's why entire teams have sprung up just to build believable frog companies. Little smoke and mirror factories that workers like me can list as past employment. Step 4. No matter how convincing a fake job application is, it can all come undone the moment a hiring manager picks up the phone and calls one of the names or companies listed under references. A single question can blow the whole operation. Therefore, I must rely on a network of sham references who man the phones, or rather the cloud PBX, and confirm whatever fabricated backstory I'm running that week. Every reference check is routed through a voice over IP phone, which receives calls over the internet so we can pick and hide any area of code we want. Now, it might be hard to believe, but many Europeans or Americans end up helping these operations, but it's complicated. Helping is a loaded word because they too are deceived. Many don't really know what they've signed up for, and in lots of cases, they are victims too. No one is immune from being pulled into this. Back to the exercise. Step 5. To find these people, I will spend days on Discord and Reddit in places like our overemployed subreddit and become friendly with freelancers and side hustlers. Then I'll introduce myself as a Japanese or Chinese developer trying to establish myself into the United States. I offer my new internet friends a quick cash, low effort opportunity to serve as the face of my company over there. I offer $200 a week. If they agree, I ask them to upload photos of their IDs and social security numbers. This practice is known as Muling. For more suspicious sounding tasks, say if I need someone to take an employee mandated blood test on my behalf, I'll spend time in gambling recovery forums and recruit someone a little more down on their luck or in debt. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Step 6. I've just secured a job interview and I'm thrilled, except for one major problem. I'm from the United States' longest standing adversary, a reality that used to be impossible to hide. Stay with me. Soon you'll see a real North Korean go through a job interview. Just a few years ago, they needed a Western facilitator to take the job interview on their behalf. But as of 2025, AI has filled the gap. That means during hypothetical job interview, I lean on tools like Claude or ChatGPT to generate convincing responses, and real-time accent-changing software like Sanas, originally launched to help call center workers sound like Westerners. My AI stack fills in most of the linguistic and technical gaps. But the real danger isn't exactly in pronunciation or syntax. It's any question that requires truth, opinion, or worse, a personal anecdote. To help with this, my country has given me an interview script to memorize. If an interviewer asks what good corporate culture means to me, I respond with, people are free to express ideas and opinions. Back home, freedom of expression can mean imprisonment, and so can answering any question that insults our leader. I've heard on the grapevine that some companies are now asking suspected North Koreans to say something negative about Kim Jong-un. Apparently, that's the only way they think they can trap us. It's true, a question like that puts the operation and our lives at risk. But luckily, I haven't been asked such a question. I nailed the interview, and the job is mine. This is where the real game begins. Step 7. HR's asking for a physical address for payroll purposes, where they will also send my Mac workstation and FIDO YubiKey, a hardware security key for proving I'm in possession of my second factor. But I won't be. I never will be. This is where someone like Christina Chapman or Matthew Newt comes in. Two of the many everyday civilians running laptop farms out of their living rooms. At least 29 known or suspected ones across 16 US states. But with the FBI closing in, these laptop farms are closing down there and opening up across Europe with the aid of North Korea. Laptop farms are arguably the lifeblood of this entire operation. But many have been tracked, raided, and blacklisted. So I must vet every potential delivery point, like my life depends on it, because hundreds do. I email my employer to have my work computer sent to a different address than the stolen one listed on my resume. I spin a lie about caretaking duties for a sick relative to justify the address change, which buys me some time to avoid an office appearance. Nobody questions the address change or the address itself. The hardware arrives at the house of my facilitator, who purchased and configures all the necessary off-the-shelf remote tools. I need virtual camera software like OBS or Minicam to fake live video presence and remote management tools like AnyDesk or VMware Workstation for system control. Step 8. Many companies now monitor the presence of remote access tools, which leaves software on the footprints of the host. Since I'm not and never will be physically near my hardware I need an external workaround, something like IP-based KVM, such as PiKVM or TinyPilot. The facilitator plugs the PiKVM into my computer's HDMI and USB ports. This gets me into the machine from power on through the boot process. Unlike remote desktop tools or SSH, PiKVM works even if the OS has crashed. I can enter the BIOS, run diagnostics, reinstall the operating system, all from my own chair hundreds of miles away. Facilitators manage dozens, sometimes hundreds of laptops, so this reduces my reliance on them in case something goes wrong, like a network crash mid-briefing. Despite all the media attention on us, many companies are still on board the BYOD train, where endpoint visibility is limited. Therefore, my PiKVM setup shouldn't trigger the usual SOC alerts that look for standard remote access traffic. But my PiKVM lifeline may not last much longer. Increasingly, companies are logging USB activity and rolling out lockdown systems with policies against unapproved HIDs. With my PiKVM, I can control 4 machines at once. Per port, stack 5 together to run 20 systems simultaneously, each flagged with an RGB light, so I don't mix them up and lose track of multiple full-time jobs I'm juggling at once. But I can only do so much. Some of the remote software needs babysitting, like Zoom, which needs to be regularly reset. That's where my facilitator comes in. They're paid good money to handle things like that. Most of them were running on empty before they stumbled on an innocuous job listing on freelancer.com or Upwork, advertising for a US-based remote IT hardware custodian or simply remote laptop management. The job seemed harmless at first. Keep the devices plugged in and secure, watch for reboots, check for overheating, and troubleshoot network problems as they arise. It was a 24/7 job and meant being chained to your desk, but facilitators needed the money. And the money was good. They were paid $300 per device per month, plus received a cut of our earnings. It started simple, but once they got a taste of the high life, the rules of the game changed. They were asked to open bank accounts on behalf of the North Koreans and accepted direct deposits in their name. Once the money landed, they would have to send it back to North Korea for allocation via payment apps like PayPal, Venmo, smart contracts, and crypto platforms to evade detection. Some of the facilitators know who we are and what we are doing. Others believed they were simply hosting laptops for a China-based software company that needed a US endpoint. Step 9. It's now the first day of work, and an email lands in my inbox. I have an onboarding call this morning, and HR reminds me to have my ID ready for inspection. This could spell game over, but I've come prepared. I take a green-colored card and using deepfake technology project an image of the stolen ID onto it. Unfazed and without suspicion, HR goes over the salary again. This position pays $150,000 base, which is below market rate. But accepting less increased my chances of being hired. Of this salary, I only take home approximately 20%, but that's only if I make the monthly quota. 30 to 40% is sent back to Pyongyang, and the remainder is spent on overhead expenses like paying the facilitators. Even after those deductions, I could still afford to rent a nice apartment in places like Laos, where many workers are sent. Instead, I share a highly surveilled apartment with 15 other North Korean men, 5 to a room. We work up to 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, across time zones. Our apartment looks like a call center. We have to log all of our time, despite every machine being loaded with monitoring software. Our phones have no SIM cards, and we're allowed only one walk outside per day. Many North Koreans exist in sleeper cells like this, but not everyone does the same corporate work I do. There are dozens of other schemes out there to dodge UN sanctions. For example, some of my roommates run fake recruiter schemes. They reach out to software developers inviting them to complete fake job assessment hosted on Bitbucket. During these sessions, candidates are instructed while screen sharing on outside sandboxed environments to clone and run coding challenges or conference call installers. These files carry beaver tail malware, which can steal browser data, including crypto wallets, or install Python-based backdoors like Invisible Ferret, which grants the North Korean hacker remote access Trojan features and long-term system control. Others simply hack the developers that respond to their fake RFPs, steal their identities, and get jobs that way. A lot of the workers in legitimate corporate jobs don't last long, just a few days actually. Not because they get caught. A few days is all they need to download massive amounts of company data or plant malicious software in their systems. Once that's done, they quit abruptly, move on to the next target, and repeat the cycle. Crypto companies are especially attractive targets for this kind of work. North Korean hackers have already stolen $2 billion of crypto in this year alone. Unsurprisingly, the scheme is making headlines everywhere. Every company knows about it. And so our master boss calls us in to announce the next plan of action to shield against the hyper-alert feds and corporations. Work will now be routed through overseas gig workers in places like India or Pakistan, who will act as a buffer between the North Korean operatives and the paying companies. The counterattack. How the industry fights back. Naturally, there are massive legal risks that come with violating sanctions currently in place against North Korea, even by accident. And not to mention the ethical concerns, reputational hazard, and for the individual, the serious tax and financial consequences, all baked into this one scheme. Given those stakes, let's look at what the cybersecurity experts recommend, what business leaders with first-hand experience are doing, and how people like us can avoid getting roped into something so dangerous. Starting with corporations, this is obviously a real red-hot issue for them. Even a single hire made in good faith puts the company at risk of hiring an employee who could be laboring under repressive and cruel conditions, or trained to steal corporate secrets. As a result, companies are now rolling back certain remote work privileges. Some now require all employees to attend in-person orientation. Anyone with access to sensitive systems must also submit fingerprinting. Earlier this year, OpenAI removed all ChatGPT accounts suspected of being linked to this scheme. A few months later, they released a 46-page document detailing how AI made these workers more efficient, but also made the case for AI making them more exposed and detectable. Let's step down a level. What can bosses, HR recruiters, and business owners do? To answer that, let's check out this video posted on LinkedIn by Dawid Moczadło, co-founder of Vidoc Security Lab.
Your avatar is like kind of weird. Like, are you using something to like change your camera view? Can you take your hand and put it like in front of your face to like cover it partially? No, it's not a joke because I can see that you're using some kind of software. If you don't do it, we'll end the conversation right now. Okay, thank you. No, like put it like this, in front of your face. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
So, asking for a simple hand movement in front of the face can help detect deepfakes. You can also ask the employee or candidate to turn the camera around and show that it's daytime where they claim to be. Security teams should check known indicators of compromise and cross-reference them with email logs, ticketing systems, and access records. And keep an eye out for tools that enable covert control and anonymity, like PiKVM switches, mouse automation tools, anonymizing VPNs, and remote desktop protocols. As for individuals, having your identity stolen can be life-altering. It can ruin your credit, rack up debt in your name, trigger IRS audits, and leave you with massive lawyer fees for crimes you did not commit, or computer network remediation costs. And while basic cyber hygiene helps, it's not always enough. While many stolen IDs come from dark web dumps and data leak sites, an alarmingly high amount are taken from people who simply respond to job ads. So what can job seekers do to stay open to opportunities while protecting themselves? Scrub full birth dates, phone numbers, home addresses, and references from online CVs. Consider setting up Google Alerts for your name. Don't hand over passports or national IDs. Run all coding tests or NPM challenges in a VM or sandbox to avoid malware-laced test packages. If your resume, code samples, or headshots are public, consider watermarking or limiting download options. Search the company in Google News and look for a digital footprint. For some, this topic may be too convenient to ignore, especially if the employee is exceeding their targets and clocking long hours, all on a sub-market salary. But this fraud is now spreading out from software into industries that literally shape the world around us, like architecture and civil engineering. Just pause for a second and really think about how messy this is all about to get. We know North Korean operatives are masquerading as licensed HVAC workers, forging official seals from real architects and then reviewing and approving real architectural plans. They're totally unqualified, and we can't assume they have the best intentions. But they're still drawing up blueprints and 3D models for boutiques, decks, restaurants, and even residential swimming pools. And they're not just building our homes, they're inside them, quite literally. Reports show North Korean animators working behind the scenes at Amazon and Max. It easily gets sidetracked in the many side quests these North Korean operatives are going on. So let's bring it back to you as a hard-working employee. Are you ready to see company policies change because of fraud like this? And how much of your privacy would you sacrifice? And how much surveillance would you tolerate just to prove you are who you say you are? Let us know your thoughts and concerns below, and we'll see you in the next one.